Westeros.
And welcome to our Morning Throners podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners. And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We are your Morning Throners, and we got a quickie on deck, Davos 2.
Yeah. So, Kyle, what do you think about this one?
This one, I mean, so we got a little bit of intrigue at the end, but otherwise, like, it was kind of following sick-ass Davos. Like,
I think Nelson lied to us, because Nelson last episode was like, oh, this next chapter is going to be the first one where we're not relearning new stuff.
Well, I said it's a one where it's a second. It's just a second chapter. Davos' second chapter. We've never had a second chapter yet.
But I thought I'm pretty sure you inferred that we would learn new stuff. Like it would be building off of, and like Davos really learned. He learned again what happened.
Yeah,
we learned what happened to him. Now he learned what happened to the Blackwater.
Well, still a lot of recap. Yeah. Give me the one sentence synopsis.
The one sentence is like Davos is still pissed at Melisandre is really like the one sentence, right? Like
exactly. Davos is back for revenge.
Yep. Yeah, there you go. And so like, I mean, I guess we get a little bit of new stuff. Like we get kind of Salvador Shawn's first, just like what he saw and some confirmation of some things. We get he's kind of his new position, right? Like, so now he's kind of in charge of this bay, right?
Yeah.
Or coastal water.
It kind of to Jeff's point, like a lot of the stuff we learn, or Davos learns, we've already learned through like Tyrion chapters or Sansa chapters and King's Landing and stuff, right?
And like it was kind of a lot of it could have been inferred as well, and like Davos himself kind of inferred a lot of it with like my sons are probably dead. Oh, my sons are dead. And then I guess we also get kind of the state of Stannis and his kingdom, right?
Yeah. One thing I wanted to do for this chapter that I didn't get a chance to, just ran out of time, I wanted to load up the Minecraft Westeros place and go and check out Dragonstone. I'm sure I've done it before, but like this garden, like Davos is chilling in what they call Aegon's garden later on in Dragonstone.
Sounds big.
Sounds pretty cool. Yeah, like there's trees and stuff enough that like people run out of bushes.
Cranberry bog and stuff.
Yeah. So I kind of want to load it up and see like how that fits in the castle. Also, just got like Dragonstone's just a cool castle. Like chapter starts off, he's on the boat that picked him up, sailing towards Dragonstone. Right? Is there anything else to say before we get into it?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. So he's sailing towards Dragonstone. Drift marks in the behind him, and he can see like the castle. He says like coming out of the side of the volcano. Like this is a castle built into the volcano. Like we forget that sometimes they don't mention it a lot, but it is. It's like built into a volcano. It's sick.
Well, yeah, and they even said that was kind of like what Melisandre might be doing there, like walking around some of the tunnels down below that nobody else can actually step foot on without bursting into flames or whatever.
Yeah, some weird red lady shit.
Yeah.
Is that just her like sense of fire? Like she can feel it a little. I mean, we can all feel heat. I think that's
the stories, man.
Yeah. I'm saying everyone feels heat and says, don't touch this. Like she can just maybe take it.
I'm just thinking it's the whispers. Like Kyle said, it's more like that's what the people are saying because they know she's just like people and Stannis isn't saying anybody.
She's doing some weird ass shit in this volcano.
I would say more to your point, Jeff, would be Dany.
Dany can take the heat a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that was like the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Blood of the Dragon. That was like her whole thing.
I get from this life how to get like is it the third Batman with the Christopher Nolan Batman when it starts off where Bruce Wayne is like in retirement, right? Like he
Yeah. He's injured. He's in a cane and shit. No one's seen him for 10 years.
But it starts off at that party outside, right, where they're trying to get rid of Gordon and everyone's like talking shit like, oh, what's happened to no one knows what Bruce Wayne's up to. Like that's Stannis right now.
No, they're like promoting Gordon, I'm pretty sure.
Well, he's giving a speech,
or it's like Harvey Dente. It's Harvey Dente. Is what it is.
But I'm talking about the whispers about Bruce Wayne. Like everyone, like at the party's like, "Oh, what's Bruce up to? No one's seen him in like 5 years." That's kind of what's going on in Dragonstone with Stannis right now. Like, what's going on? No one's seen him. He doesn't talk to anybody. Like,
oh yeah, he's definitely in seclusion. But I mean, how long has he been back there for?
Probably not long, right? Like
a month, maybe.
Yeah, so probably not long, but yeah, he's secluded.
All right. Yeah. So as he's flying flying back, like it's fucking common time. As he's sailing back, he's thinking about Melisandre. And as we said about the synopsis, like he's like, I need to kill her. Like she's ruined Stannis. She's used him, just sucking off the power, of him and kind of riding his coattails, but now taking over the coat. Like she's wearing the coat now, almost is what
she's in charge. Yeah.
It goes back to kind of like where the last chapter ended, right? Because he didn't ever mention in the last Davos chapter like exactly what he had to live for, but he says like, oh, now I have something to live for. Like the gods have sent me this ship because there's something I must do.
I mean, we kind of knew, right?
Yeah, I don't think we ever like officially said it, but yeah, it's clearly like we got to kill Melisandre now. Yeah, so the ship he's on is named Shyala's Dance. Captain's name, Corain Sethmantes.
I was just saying Corain
Sethmantes.
The captain.
Yeah,
I'm going to call him Corain or Captain. Yeah, Captain works for me too.
The guy is just like, I don't care.
One thing I know.
What's it matter?
One thing I noticed, and maybe it's because I was just editing the Danny podcast, but in the Danny's on a ship, right? And the captain gives over his quarters to Danny. And I think Kyle had mentioned in the podcast, like, oh, this is a sign that Jorah might be right. And maybe like these guys are playing her false. Like, why are they being like, oh yeah, bow down to you so much, like to the point where the captain's giving over his cabin. Well, here, I mean, this captain gives over his cabin to Davos, and Davos is just like the Onion Knight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's like he's a knight though, right? Like he's obviously ranks above most.
But so you're right, Jeff. But what I was saying, I guess, was that these guys were kind of like going over the top and doing things you wouldn't normally do for somebody of stature. So what you're saying is that Davos is of stature. Of course, you give him some respect. Yeah. But I guess what I was trying to say was like, this doesn't seem right to be giving Danny this respect.
Yeah, you were saying it's out of the ordinary. In my point here is it's not that out of the ordinary. Yep. The only reason I might be remembering that is because I think I'm cheating, and I had like just read this Davos chapter when we were actually recording the Danny thing, and I'm like, no, I know it's not, but I just it's not a spoiler, but I don't want to be in 2 chapters Davos gets a captain's cabin. So, but yeah, I think that's why I was kind of in my head.
I mean, it's a little different, I guess, because like he's Salador's best friend, and like, but at the same time, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there a chance that he knew that he was Salador's fan or friend?
For sure, I think so. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
That's common knowledge around the Lyseni ships.
I think
so, I mean, jumping a little ahead, like when he says like, "Oh, your buddy Corain brought me back," he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna hook him up."
Yeah,
like,
He's like,
so like he's
some awards.
So like that was kind of where I was at. Like, was like, oh, he's giving him this place because he knows like, we got, a couple more days in the water and I'm going to get paid for this.
Yeah. I'm going to hook up his best friend.
Yeah. Like back from the dead, I'm going to bring this guy.
Yeah. And you can see that too, when Davos goes to get off the ship, when they first get there, he's like, all right, thanks, Captain. I'm going to see the king. And the Captain's like, no. You're going to see the prince.
You got to see this guy.
And he's like, no, I'm going to see the king. He's like, no, first Salador. Then you can go see the king. And basically what I think the captain's doing is like, I'm not going to get my reward.
Yeah, they need to know that I brought you here.
I got to be the one to hand you off to Salador, the guy who's going to reward me.
I think that's part of it, but I also think like he was kind of like, nobody sees the king. Like, you're not going to be able to get in. You need to go talk to your friends and he'll explain.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think it was kind of like, yeah. You need to help me out first.
Yeah, now that you guys were talking about that, like the captain is definitely making out pretty good here.
So Davos isn't feeling too hot. He's got his fever still. He's obviously famined, and he's got a pretty bad cough setting in now too.
Yeah.
Just weak as shit. The guy should have maybe taken a day or two off and
coughing up blood. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, to the whole point of like, he feels like he has a purpose now. There's a point where he's like, he's kind of just like ignoring this sickness and like how like not well he is, because he like doesn't give a fuck. He like thinks he's gonna die anyway. He thinks like, why would the gods bring me back just to kill me from a flux? But then later when he's talking to Salador's like, yo, you're gonna die. Like, your plan right now is die no matter what. Die trying to either get caught and die or succeed and die after. So I think his point is like, I don't care if I'm sick. Fuck it, I'm dead anyway. I just got to get this thing done first.
Is that called like a martyr?
I guess, right? Die for a cause, and he knows it.
I don't know if that'd be being a martyr per se. It's like a martyr is like you standing up against, like, I mean, maybe like if a rebellion like grew or like drew from Davos's like thing, then it would be like he would be their martyr.
Right? A martyr is like something has to grow out of it.
You inspire other people. Yeah.
Say he kills the Red Woman, and then all of these fiery heart Baratheons are like, wait, this is wrong. Back to the 7. Then he's a martyr.
Again, I'm going to sound super nerdy, but I think martyr because in COD, right? That perk where like when you die, you drop a grenade after your death. Isn't that called martyrdom? Right? So that's like basically the premise there is when you die, you take someone out with you. You're taking the guy out with you. And that's kind of what Davos is thinking.
Back in the day, I needed that for a kill. I needed that dropped grenade just to get one, just to stop the death streak.
Our science and vocabulary based off Call of Duty. So yeah, I don't know if we want to say that martyr just means like you die with somebody else, but
that's not what it means. And that's not, that's what I'm trying to say is it's
that should have been like a misery loves company. It should have been the name of that perk.
Someone who suffers persecution and death for advocating, renouncing, or refusing to renounce or advocate a religious belief or other cause as demanded by an external party. And then what it does is like that becoming a martyr, like I said, inspires other people to stand up against this power that should not be, or that they feel should not be.
Well, I hope he kills her and he becomes a martyr.
Lord Sunglass is a martyr. The guy that has already been burned. Like Lord Sunglass is the guy who's already been burned. He's a martyr for Davos. He's kind of inspiring Davos to do this.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Davos. All right, so and then he's thinking back on some old times as he's hearing he's now on top of the ship. He's hearing the oar drum and just thinking about how that used to be a pretty bad sound for him, and he would run from that. And now he's on it. And he's I don't know.
Yeah, position is changed.
It's kind of it's a little bit of weird of a flashback. I don't know really how it fits, but
one thing I thought here, because he's thinking, so it kind of transitions. It's almost like a segue into like, oh, it was so much better before all this shit happened, right? So yeah, to what you're saying, he's on the ship now, is reminding him of the ships that he used to be scared of when he was a smuggler. But he's like, oh, that was back in the day of King Ares. That was a lifetime ago, before Storm's End and the Onion Ship, before Stannis shortened my fingers, before the War or the Red Comet. I haven't heard about this comet in forever. Davos didn't see it, but it's the first time it's even been mentioned in a while.
How do we know he didn't see it?
He didn't say he saw it in the sky.
Okay.
He's just thinking
that's
before.
Fine. Yeah. I was just confused.
Before he was a Seaworth or a knight, and before Stannis raised him high. So what an interesting thing out of those things is, like, out of all those things, he says, like, oh, that was a lifetime ago, before all four of these things and the Red Comet. Like, those four of those things are the same event, pretty much, right? The Storm's End and the Onion Ship, Stannis shortened my fingers, before I was a Seaworth or a knight, and Stannis raised me high.
But so the Red Comet, I think we do know Davos's thoughts on this, though. I think he associates it with Melisandre.
Sure, but my point is, he mentions 5 things. 4 of the 5 things are pretty much one event. Storm's End and the Onion Ship is the other 3, like, Stannis shortened his fingers because of that. Stannis raised him high because of that, and he became a Seaworth and a knight. I think both because of that.
All because of that?
Okay. Yeah. So he's basically like, oh, that was
off
before
of him smuggling the onions.
So basically he's like, oh, that was a lifetime ago. Before Storm's End and the Red Comet is pretty much what he's saying. Right? And those were different events. So like the Storm's End was years before the Red Comet.
Yeah.
That's why it seems weird to me. Like before these events, before those events.
I think those are like his major events in his life, so I guess.
That's what changed it. Yeah. But I think it's interesting when you look at it like that. Like, okay, he's saying there's 2 major things that changed my life. One, when I was made a knight, which makes sense. The other one,
red lady showing up.
I think to your point, I didn't even really think of it like that. I just thought it was weird. Like, why does Davos
give a shit about the comet?
Yeah, it makes sense why he thinks that Storm's End was a defining moment in his life. But why does he consider the Red Comet a defining moment in his life? If that's what this means, right? I think that's a good point for you. That's when Melisandre shows up. That's when shits are going sideways.
Well, I feel like we read that somewhere. Maybe it was the Crescent chapter. I don't know, but I think like he definitely associates that with her coming and being of power.
I think she was around before then. Like I think she's been around on Dragonstone, like preaching this religion.
She's had to been around for a little bit. At least showed up and like hung around Stannis and like told him you're going to be the guy before she started preaching to everybody. But once Stannis bought in, I think that's probably when she started preaching it to all. But so I agree. I think she's been there, I don't know, a handful of time.
Yeah, and if we're talking about like dragons bring back magic is really as a dragon's coming back. Like the Red Comet in the sky, Dany sees that when she has her dragons, right? So again, if we're matching up timeline across the world, basically when everybody sees the comet in Westeros, that's when we would expect magic to start happening, if that's true. Again, we've heard it a few times from like the pyromancers or who else said that shit, right? So even though Mel's been around, maybe that's why Davos considers that, because like, the first thing we see about Mel, she's burning all the wooden statues on Dragonstone. So maybe she thinks she's convinced some people, right? So even though we didn't see it, maybe she was pulling some shit off before,
makes you think,
right? Yeah, she had to convince people else. Why
you think she was just out there burning god statues and people were all right with
that statue? I think I want to set it on fire.
Yeah, that first Davos chapter. Yeah.
All right. So Captain Corain, this is where we get a little bit of the recap of how the battle went, right?
Yep.
Some ships were trapped and burned. Some went upriver, and then they ditched the ship. So are they just on foot, maybe? Not sure where they are.
We hear a little bit of that from Salvador later. Yeah, he said he's not sure. Here the captain's talking more about the land battle. Stannis was flanked. The fickle bannermen went over in their hundreds. Renly's shade was seen slain right and left.
And then he wonders about his own kids then, right? He's like, I wonder if they're going to be ghosts. He's like, so much weird shit's happening right now. Like maybe I'm going to be haunted.
He's seen so much shit now that he's just like, anything's possible.
Yeah.
He kind of asks about who's still loyal to Stannis, right? And it's mostly the Florents.
Yep. Not many others.
And the Florents are running shit too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're for sure. And that's his wife's family, right?
Yep.
Lord Axel, we kind of find out he gave himself the title of Hand.
Yeah, so the captain here says that he's the Hand now, but later, and again, I can't tell if it's just like Salvador's like accent or like, you know what I mean, like his
his syntax kind of.
Yeah, because he says like he's calling himself the Hand. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Jeff.
so yeah,
but
I mean,
I think here the captain just like acknowledges that like
Stannis is probably not doing anything, right? So Selyse is running the court, which we find out, and her uncle's there as like, I don't know, a main family guy, Lord. He's like, all right, I guess I'm Hand now, since I'm the only one doing anything.
Yeah. I think it's almost like how Tyrion was doing everything in King's Landing all last book, even though Joffrey's king, Stannis is just like neglecting everything, kind of like Joffrey is. Stannis probably isn't killing rabbits with crossbows or whatever, but he's just not worried about ruling. Yeah, so just letting this court do it. Yeah. So they pull in, he's looking around for the ships. He sees Salvador's main ship, Valyrian, where he used to see Fury.
Sad sight, right?
Yeah, because it's very empty. This place was bustling.
Times are a-changing.
Yeah.
There should be like one ray of kind of hope. Oh, no, wait. Stannis' ship wasn't there. Stannis had to like climb back to the Lyseni. Is that how he got off the island? Or off the bay?
What?
Stannis' ship's gone, right?
Yeah,
Stannis
it's gone. His sunk. He went under the chain. He got stuck on the rock. The big boat came, sent out a little boat, picked him up, brought him back to the big boat. Is that what you're asking?
I was saying maybe at this point there isn't a ray of light for Devon, but
that's the Stannis was never on. Stannis was never on a ship. If we remember back to the battle,
he was on the backside.
Stannis was commanding the land forces. Emery Florent was on Fury.
Right.
But to your point, yes, he says that Valyrian, which is Salvador Sand's main ship, is where Fury was before the battle. And that kind of gets into what Kyle was saying. It's a sad sight. Just looks bad. Like where Fury should be the head ship, we don't have the head ship anymore. We basically have like the backup.
Did I mishear, Jeff? Were you talking about Davos or Stannis?
I was just kind of mentioning like everything looks different. Like all these ships are gone. Like we were fucked. And my sons are probably dead. But like I'm just thinking of when he had any ray of hope that Devon was alive. But he doesn't, I guess, really until he finds out that.
Well, he's up. Yeah, not even thinking of Devon right now. At first, he's just looking for
the ones that his kids were on.
He thinks it's in vain, but he does take a quick peek around, doesn't see him. This is when he gets into the thing like, oh, I got to go see Salvador. I got to go see the king. And he's like, no, you're going to go see the prince.
No one goes to the king. Yeah. Salvador Sam will tell you. Tell him first. Or him first. My prince will wish to see you at once. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sally's on another ship counting pepper barrels.
Pepper pots.
And we kind of find out later that he's patrolling the Blackwater Bay and pirating these ships. He doesn't call it pirating, but he's seizing these ships.
He has a piece of paper that makes it legal now, but yeah, he's just a pirate.
And even at the end, he's like laughing, like, I ain't no fucking pirate no more. Like, what are you talking about?
Paper makes it legit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, he's pretty much a pirate. Yeah.
So Sally greets him, like, excited to ship, but like, holy shit, like, you were drowned. Like, did the sea spit you up? And
also, real quick before we get into this, it's interesting. They don't mention it quite yet. They mention it later. Whose ship is this?
Illyria's boat. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is Illyria's boat. So Illyria's having some bad luck.
I feel like he probably has a lot of boats, so.
Sure, but he just set off, like, Zara Zarendupsos was rich. And I think he tells, like, rich. And I think he tells Dany he had 36 boats.
Yeah.
Right? Illyria just sent 3 to Dany. She just took them off fucking course, right? Jorah's even like, we got a ship full of shit we can sell. Like, this is our stuff. Like, what's good or wealthy friends, right? And this
pretty much
ship got captured.
Boats, yeah.
So if Illyria is on par with Zaro, and he's got 36 ships, 4 of them at least gone, right? Just shiploads of stuff, like full ships gone.
Your time to shine. What's 436?
That's a percentage.
What's the percentage?
4 goes into 36 9 times, so it's a 1/9. So 11%.
11%
ish.
I don't know.
11.111.
That's a decent chunk of your fleet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
That's not nothing.
Hey y'all, this is Editing Nelson here. I just needed to jump back in here because I'm such a huge nerd that I wouldn't have been able to sleep at night knowing I told you guys that Zarazo and Duxus had the wrong number of ships. It's not 36, it's 84. When you do the math, it still adds up to about 5% of the total fleet. I know I'm a huge nerd, but there you go. 84, not 36. 5%. My minute point holds. Now, back to the podcast.
So, yeah, again, I don't think that's super important, but kind of interesting that, yeah, this is Illyria's
Especially
ship.
because this one was full of stuff, right? And then now the best part, I think, is that Salvador is like pissed that it's not matching like what
Yeah.
the manifest said or something. It's like not even his boat.
Yeah.
It's like free to him anyway, right?
Yeah. So I think he's thinking that, like, I guess because what he says later is that he just ransoms people. He's like, what I'm happy with now is that I take these boats, take the stuff, and then I ransom the crew back, like make money
Sell
for
them
the
back,
crew.
yeah.
And I guess he's thinking that, like, when he ransomed the crew, the crew stole stuff. It's the only thing I can think of, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, who is he upset here? Like, he stole this stuff. Like, either it wasn't packaged properly, or like, I don't know. But yeah, he's upset that they don't have the right amount of things. Because he says, like, they don't think I can count. Or maybe he stole. Oh, you know what? Maybe he stole this ship like a while ago.
And he's using it.
And he's using it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Fair enough.
he hasn't like redecorated the interior. That's why there's still got the big chairs upstairs. But like, yeah, this isn't a recent
There's nothing
seizure.
wrong with a big chair. Sometimes get a little room.
That'd be a pretty recent seizure though, because like, just if he's saying he does this illegally,
in a month. Yeah. I don't know.
Whatever.
I don't know.
I had one note. He thought of Patchface here, and we run into Patchface later. Did
Crawling
also
out of the
mention that.
sea. Am I crazy now? How do you know when you're crazy, right?
Do
Yeah.
crazy people know they're crazy?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like,
So we learned a bunch of stuff.
as he coughs into his hand and then like just forgets
Coughing up
about
blood,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Salvador also dressed fancy, right? He's got a wine-colored tunic and high boots of bleached white leather inlaid with silver
I
scroll
feel like
whorl.
this dude was, at least in my mind, was always like a fancy dude.
He's definitely been trying to, but I said it earlier and quick. He's made out of this loss. Like, he's now the only like Navy. He's like the Navy captain, and he is seizing all these ships. Like, he's making out right now.
Played both sides, man. You always come out on top, right? Like he knew what he was doing. Like
Did he come out on top?
He's not down. He had the Bay job, right? He stayed safe from the chain and
But
fire.
he really didn't gain anything.
He gained everything. What do you mean? He's literally making money right now.
Yeah, but he gained a piece of paper that says, like, hey, you can do what you're already doing legally now. And it's not like
Sure.
Joffrey's going to acknowledge that. Like, the only person that's going to acknowledge that is this king who's losing.
Everybody around that he's associated with Stannis has lost, basically, and Salvador San hasn't. So he's winning.
He's
You're
positioned
winning because
himself
you're
well,
not
yeah.
losing.
fair
He's
enough.
better than everybody else on Stannis' team. I'm just saying, I think he would rather have gold than what he has.
He does say that, even Nelson. You're right.
So I just have a note that Davos looses his fingers. Salvador makes a quick note about
My luck.
weirdness of having fingers on. He's like, well, shit, I don't even have them. And this is where he asked if any of the ships survived. We learned that a lot of them died. Some of them oared up the river. And there's one, Lucky something, I think, is still pirating up the river, right?
Yeah, Ragged Jenna and Laughing Lord. So, yeah, he says Lord Stefan, Ragged Jenna, Swift Sword, and Laughing Lord were all above, like, far enough upriver that, like, when everything exploded, they, like, weren't in the worst of it. But most of those ships were captured or sunk themselves to avoid capture.
It's awful.
And he heard rumors that, yeah, those two, Ragged Jenna and Laughing Lord, were still playing pirate. But, like, that's just a rumor. Like, how long can that last? But, yeah.
Like, how can you just do that on the river? Like, I feel like you got nowhere to run.
Yeah, but Joffrey blew up all his own ships. So it's
Yeah,
like,
true.
It's a big river.
Well, Joffrey didn't. Tyrion blew up Joffrey's
You know what
ships.
I mean? Like, there's no more. There's literally no ships in like the fleet. So like, they don't have anyone to track them down. So
They can't be sending out guys like Riverrun.
yeah, I guess it might make sense that like you could get away with this for maybe a month if there's literally no other. Like, who's going to stop you? Like, yeah, they have an army, but just stay away
Yeah,
from the
they're
shore.
probably not building ships, right?
They're probably working at it, but not like.
I don't know. I feel like the city is so fucked up. They have
It doesn't
to.
sound
they got
like
a lot
they're
of stuff
doing.
on their
Doesn't sound like
plate.
they're doing much of anything anything since
they're like
king is,
prepping for this wedding and like, being bitches.
They have friends now too. They made allies with like Tyrells. Probably saying, "Hey, Tyrells, bring any ships you guys got. Bring them around."
You would think that the Lannisters being on the coast would have a decent navy, but I guess they don't really give a shit. But
Casterly Rock,
yeah, or the Ironborn just picks off your ships one by one as you build them.
Well, and we know the Ironborn that's their shit, right?
Yeah.
That's their jam.
That's
so
what
like,
they do.
You wouldn't want to be next
give
to
me
them
that
trying to
shit.
figure out how to build.
We're
a
not
navy.
going to we're not going to fight fire with fire.
I think Tyrion actually has said that like Lannisport is like a one of the main spots that like the Ironborn like to raid. They're pretty close to there. And it's like wealthy.
It's right there. Throw a rock.
It's like just fucking have it, man. You guys are good. We won't contest you.
All right, so Devin survives. He did a real good job.
Yeah, they said good stories about him. He was serving the king well, being brave, all that shit.
Was by Stannis until the very end.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
Davos gets a little dizzy about it because he's like he was afraid to even bring up that
like,
son.
oh shit, I had another son.
Yeah,
I think he kind of forgets about him a little bit.
well, he's got 2 more sons with his wife, and that's what Salah says. Like, okay, I bet you want to go home now, huh? You've had enough of this shit. We're gonna go home and see your 2 kids.
And while you're on your way there, maybe back around, do you want to smuggle some shit in and out for me?
Yeah, let's get back to doing what we do best, boy.
And he's like, nope, I gotta serve the king. And he's like, whoa, your king has changed, brother. He's different.
Yeah, you don't know what you're asking. You don't know what you're in for there.
Yeah, he's not the fair guy you used to know, pretty much. Which is crazy, right? So like Stannis' whole life has been so rigid.
Okay.
And now here we are, and he's like completely changed.
Well, to that point, it's kind of like Davos. That's what Davos says here. He's like, he's the rightful king by all the laws. But then Salah says, yeah, but the laws don't really help when all the ships are burned up. It's like what Salah's quote is. I think it's pretty funny. It's like he's the rightful king, Salah, but all the laws of the land. It's like the laws are not helping when the ships would be burning, I think. So he's like, yeah, but it doesn't change the fact. But that's kind of what you're saying. Like, yeah, he's rigid. Stannis is like, I deserve it. I earn it. Like, it's how it should be. And it just sucks that that's not how it was. You lost.
I felt like that meant something different, though. To me, at least, it was more of just like we have no power anymore. Like that was our claim to the throne, essentially. Like our way back to the throne, at least, was our navy, and now here we are, decimated.
Well, yeah, Davos is being the idealist. He's like, okay, this is how it should be. This is like that's what's right. As Stannis is on the throne, and Salah's like, yeah, but you don't have the means to make that happen.
Nobody cares about that anymore.
Yeah,
gotcha.
it's like. Even and when you did have the ships, like you couldn't make it happen anyway. But you don't even have the ships anymore, so like, who cares? Like, Sal's
how are
like,
you gonna do this?
Yeah, Sal's like, let's just go make some money.
And all the common people love Marjorie Tyrell now, so you guys are really boned.
Yeah, and he also says your boy isn't like he's changed. He just stays in stone drums. He's no one. Yeah, this is where he says Selyse, who's Stannis' wife, and Lord Alistair, who's naming himself the Hand, just are running shit. And Davos is like, what do you mean Stannis sees no one? And I think he like puts a little emphasis on the no one, and Salah's like, well, he sees Melisandre.
Actually, there's still that one lady.
There's one person.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, you want to read that quote that Kyle was talking about earlier, where they go down into the fires?
The gods keep all others away, even his queen and his little daughter. Servants bring meals no one eats.
He leaned forward and lowered his voice.
Queer talking I have heard of hungry fires within the mountain, and how Stannis and the Red Woman go down together to watch the flames. There are shafts, they say, and secret stairs down into the mountains into hot places where only she may walk unburned. It is enough and more to give an old man such terrors that sometimes he can scarcely find the strength to eat.
Yep.
So this is pretty much, I mean, like,
that's weird.
Some serious stuff is happening.
Weird.
Right? Like,
what's going on?
Like these two don't come out. They're doing stuff, extracurricular activities. And I mean, Davos,
in a volcano.
Of anybody knows, right? Like shit's up with these two.
Yeah, I mean, he saw a shadow baby crawl out of her womb.
Yeah, I don't think everybody else got the full experience, right? Davos is like full bore on this.
Well, everyone's whispering about her, so there's definitely like people think there's something up.
But I don't think they understand what Davos knows.
Are they whispering low enough about her? I don't know.
There's no plausible deniability for everybody else. They can be like, maybe she doesn't have any powers. Davos is like, fuck.
Davos don't care because the mother has sent him to cut out her heart, and He's gonna do it. And so I was like, look, even if you don't get if you try and fail, you're gonna burn. If you succeed, we hit on that. You're fucked. And Sally gets pissed. He's like, look, I'm trying to be your friend here. Don't do this. And then Davos is just, I got to do it. And he's like, well, then I'll collect your bones and send them to your other sons.
I'll put them in a pouch and they can wear them around their neck.
Yeah.
I thought that was a funny burn as well.
In there, though, before that, there's a part where Davos wonders to himself if she can even be killed by mortal weapons, thinking back to when Crescent tries to poison her.
It's a lot different than a mortal weapon, but still.
What he thinks, and when he comes to the conclusion of it, is like, cold iron can kill demons. At least that's what the singers say. So he thinks like maybe she has some magics that can get her around poison, but not a dagger.
Yeah, I mean, that seems pretty basic, right? Like, you build up tolerance to that other stuff. You can't really, there's no building up a tolerance to getting poked in the heart.
And also, we've seen Mel do some crazy stuff, but back to that Crescent chapter real quick. Do you remember anything about that? The poisoning?
What do you mean?
You were a little suspicious about it. I was surprised.
What do you mean?
Like, you brought up the fact that Crescent, he pulls his poison out, like these little like beads that he plans to drop in the wine. He's playing with them. Then he falls asleep at his table, and then he wakes up late. No one woke him up for the dinner. And you had said like, wow, I can't believe he just like fell asleep with this like poison that he's gonna kill somebody with, like on his table. He just like takes a nap with the poison out in front.
That's true. I didn't connect that though. Maybe she tampered with him
to the point where like just put something in there that's not a poison, but looks like poison. Yeah, it makes it not, I don't remember the order of what they drank, but if she drinks first, then she could drink normal wine that he put nothing in, and then she could slip it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a chance that there was maybe nothing going on in that poisoning. He was just being dumb about it, and somehow they tricked him out of it. People think that, but again, like, it's hard to say that Mel doesn't have powers. Davos saw her give birth to a shadow baby, like we saw. So
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that was why I didn't even really remember that original stuff, because she's done some crazier stuff than survive poison, right?
Yeah, for sure. Big time. That's low on totem pole.
All right. So Davos like, fuck it, I gotta go. So he makes his way to the castle. Town is dead. No pun intended, but they're in mourning for their dead.
Well, hang on. Before he gets up to go, Salador also tells him that Melisandre was just burning people.
Was it her or was it Selyse?
She says that while you guys, while the ships were burning on the Blackwater, Melisandre was back here burning traitors.
No, I think he says the Queen. I'm pretty sure. While we were burning on the river, the Queen was burning traitors.
Okay, yeah, I had Mel was burning traitors. So you're right, it was Selyse. Good catch, Chef.
Drop.
So the Queen's burning people. Like these were guys who spoke. So we haven't heard. They don't bring it up here. But Lord Gunter Sunglass, he was one of the guys who basically all he did was speak against them burning the statues of the gods, and they threw him in prison. And Sir Hubbard Rampton and his sons actually tried to stop them burning the gods. And Sir Hubbard Rampton and one of his sons died, and the other two sons were thrown in prison. And then here they're just pulled from prison and burned for being faithful.
Bad karma hanging around.
I mean, the Queen's a crazy lady.
She is.
I'm just we were gonna glance over that. Like she's off her rocker now.
I did glance right over it in my notes. So
yeah, I think we get to some of the stuff you have talking about. One thing, Jeff, I'm surprised you didn't bring it up. There's a part when Salas says, oh, we're so lucky you're here, and Davos is like, no, I'm here for a reason. Like the mother, she sent these ships to save me, and Salas is like, no, it was an ill wind. And Davos says, well, who sends the wind?
I don't know why you expected me to say that, but
because you love Osha said that to Bran.
The wind, but that's an old god thing.
He says, I was praying to the gods, and all I heard back was the wind and the leaves. And she's like, who sends the wind?
The old gods are more powerful, is what you're telling me.
Oh, Davos is saying it's the mother. They're both saying the wind is sent by the gods, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Because that's a really easy thing to attribute it to, especially back before you understand pressure systems and everything, right?
Fuck, where did the pressure system come from? I don't fucking know. Weather's complicated, dude. Even the weathermen don't know what the fuck the weather's gonna do.
There's a lot of variables.
That's a good catch, Nelson. I didn't even think about that for sure.
But Davos goes through that whole thing of and I think we kind of talked about it too during the Davos chapter. I think you guys brought it up for sure. Why the fuck would this boat be anywhere near this? This is so dangerous. This is not a spot anybody should be. And it leads credence to Davos's
Yeah.
Maybe it's delusions that he was sent to kill Melisandre, right? And like that's like kind of the whole thing here where I mean he even says it here where like the mother, she blessed me with 7 sons, I let them burn. Like I need to do this to right the gods, to be right for the gods.
Yeah, what's that quote? Read that quote, Kyle.
The mother, she blessed me with 7 sons, and yet I let them burn her. She spoke to me. We called the fire, she said. We called the shadows too. I rode Melisandre into the bowels of Storm's End and watched a birth of horror.
He saw it still in his nightmares, the gaunt black hands pushing against her thighs as it wriggled free of her swollen womb.
She killed Crescent and Lord Renly and a brave man named Courtney Penrose, and she killed my sons as well. Now it is time someone killed her.
Yeah. Just a cool quote, and Davos is again putting some respect on my boy Courtney Penrose's name.
Well, so this also tells us that like Davos probably already told Salah about this, right?
Sure. I mean, he doesn't explain it here, so you'd think he would have had to.
He said I watched her birth a horror.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like,
he could have went into more detail, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He didn't say like she killed Courtney Penrose with said shadow baby, because he would seem crazy. He probably already thinks this guy's crazy.
Exactly.
Right
he
now.
already thought about Patch Face, right? So he's like, okay, hold on, I can't be spewing crazy shit to Salah if he's gonna think I have Patch Face.
I guess what I'm saying though is like he just kind of drops this like, yeah, I watched her birth a horror, and Salah doesn't say a single thing about it. Like they already talked about it.
I don't think he told her because like he just wasn't ever with Salah. Like, I mean,
Okay.
I guess he was at some point. Like before the battle, he was on his ship and Salah was on his ship, and they were in the same fleet about to attack Blackwater Bay.
There had to be, battle meetings.
I
right?
guess you're right. Yes, you're right. They're pumping together. But I'm not sure. It is weird. She hasn't
They
mentioned
seem like
it.
good buds.
It's weird because they do seem like good buds, but they also seem like there's definitely a power dynamic. Like it's boss and employee. Like yeah, maybe it's favorite employee. Davos was his favorite smuggler.
Well,
But
yeah,
it's
for
still,
sure.
like,
Salah
Salah's, like-
San is baller. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's top chain or
Yeah.
top of the rungs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Top of the
All
ladder.
right. Let's get to the castle, yeah?
Go for it. Yeah.
All right, so Davos is making his way through, notices the houses are, what's on the houses that show that they're in mourning? Is it like a black?
He doesn't say. He just says that they're
It's just all dark inside.
there's like they're in mourning. Yeah, you can tell they're in mourning.
And he gets to the front gate, and they're like, "Who the fuck are you? That guy is dead. We don't trust you."
Well,
And
yeah.
all-
Well, he's like he asked for somebody, and they're like, "Yeah, no, he's dead."
everyone that Davos knew that would
Yeah.
own the gates is gone. So he's like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah,
All his connections.
Jade Blackberry, Lord Cheddarine, Hookface Will, Hal the Hog. First time for any of these guys, and they're all dead, so it doesn't fucking matter.
Good
But
nicknames.
yeah, and he goes into Hookface Hill, got his name because he got cut by a fish hook, and Hal the Hog
Will.
was fat. Yeah, Will. And Hal the Hog's fat, and his gut was always sticking out. Jace always dipped his cap to the ladies, 550, high border low. So some good guys here, dead on the Blackwater, and
Do you think he was doing that to shoot a shot, or just because he's a polite guy?
probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
No, I think it was mostly just because he was nice. I think it was like his thing.
I read it as he was shooting a shot. Like, no matter, I guess if it would have said like ugly or pretty, like tipped his hat to her.
I think the point is like
Davos liked them.
he's realizing people died more than just my sons, good men. Like,
Yeah,
right,
had
like
stories like
Yeah.
just like there's a lot of chapters ended at
Nelson's favorite George thing about war, right? Is that
yeah,
that war as hell.
innocents die. Yeah, it's not clean.
all right? So they're like, all right, are you really him? Go around back. We'll let you through the kitchen.
Yeah, they're all dead, but the guy actually recognized some of them. So he's like, okay,
Yeah.
this guy knows some people. Come on in.
So some Florence meet him around the side. They take him in, and they don't take him up to the castle. They take him to the Aegon's garden, where Davos is there solo for a little bit, but I guess kind of in like the bushes. He's hiding a little bit.
Seems like a cool place too. Again, like I'd never really taken note. I didn't think there was like a garden or like God. It seems like a Godswood type place, right? Like I didn't think there was one at Dragonstone.
Yeah, probably similar to what is at King's Landing. You would
Yeah.
think.
Rich people shit, man.
Yeah, come on.
You just have a
You just have-
garden.
you just have
Like,
gardens.
even if you don't ever go out and do it, somebody's taking care of a garden outside.
Yeah, you're
right?
paying somebody to take care of it. That's a
Yeah.
rich person thing, exactly.
Yeah.
Aegon's garden had a pleasant, piney smell to it, and tall, dark trees rose on every side. There were wild roses as well, and towering, thorny hedges in a boggy spot where cranberries grew. So Davos is just chilling in this place, like, why the fuck did they bring me to this garden? And then, bang, jingling, ding, ding, gling, gling, patch face. best character, bushes to the bushes.
Go ahead, Nelson, sing a song.
Crazy guy. He's like running away from Serene the whole time.
Yeah, she's trying to catch him.
He like sees Davos, stops in his place,
Stares at him.
Hops from one foot to the other and says, "Fool's blood, king's blood, blood of the maiden's thigh, the chains for the guest and chains for the bridegroom, I. And then he just runs off again, but through the bushes and Serene chases him.
Fucking weirdo.
I love this guy. There's
So
we can talk about it. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but there's one of the YouTubers. I think he used to go by Lucifer Means Lightbringer. Used to be his name. I think it's now David Lightbringer. I think is his YouTube channel. But he did a Patchface cosplay, and it is amazing. Bucket, antlers, bells.
I'll have to check it out.
Painted face.
I want to see this guy. Yeah.
I'll get a picture of it and put it in the Discord. Don't go. I'll do it for when this episode comes out. Don't go.
You need to do it today because I want to see it.
I'll send it to you. You can't go looking for this guy. You're gonna see spoilers. Like he does theory videos and stuff.
Yeah.
So, anybody else? Yeah, go check him out. So he does some. He's a big symbolism guy, so he gets into it. But yeah, he's done a great one. So yeah, Kyle, what are you gonna say about this?
I was gonna say this rhyme or song he sings, right? So fool's blood, king's blood, blood on the maiden's thigh, but chains for the guest and chains for the bridegroom.
Aye.
So what does this mean?
What is a vocabulary lesson? What is a bridegroom?
The groom.
You're the one that just got married.
The bride's groom.
I mean, I just thought I was just be the groom.
So you were the bridegroom.
Yeah.
Jeff
that's where it came from. It's the bridegroom, right? I think that's where the bride and the groom now, like it came out of.
Yeah. Okay.
Bridegroom.
Game of Thrones word.
I'm saying there's always a bride, but there was a bridegroom before, and it got shortened to groom. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I don't know the history of the wedding well enough.
Neither do I, but that's my assumption.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
But so like, did the groom, well, like blood on the maiden's thigh, I guess, is that like what Sansa would happen to Sansa? Is that a rape thing? Like
that did just happen to Sansa.
Yeah. Fool's blood, king's blood.
We know some fools. Dantos, Moonboy, Patchface.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's them specifically. I feel like it could just be like, somebody playing Folly.
Yeah, like how Olenna calls Mace the fool.
Yes, yeah.
I do have some other Patchface quotes. I know it's been a while since we've heard any, just to give you like the vibe of the kind of shit he said before. Normally talking about under the sea. He says, under the sea, the birds have scales for feathers. I know, oh. It's always summer under the sea. The mere wives wear honeymoons in their hair and weave gowns of silver seaweed. I know, oh. Under the sea, it snows up and the rain is dry as bone. I know, oh. Yeah, that's basically one occasion. And later he said, clever bird, clever man, clever fool. Oh, clever fool. He began to sing, the shadows come to dance, my lord, dance, my lord, dance, my lord. Hopping from one foot to another, he said, and back again, the shadows come to stay, my lord, stay, my lord, stay, my lord. He jerked his head with each word, and the bells gave up a clangor. Yeah, but like at the same time, like I feel like these are connecting to other parts of the story. Okay, so let's think about that, right? So that's prologue Clash of Kings. That's before any Shadow Baby stuff, right? And
but that's after the shadows coming to Dany.
That's true. Yeah, and that's what we were talking about when we read that the first time. Shadows come to dance.
And then they come to stay through Melisandre.
They're not really staying in any occasion.
How do we know?
Sure, but the other thing he said is in Davos 1, which is when they're burning everything, he says, under the sea, smoke rises and bubbles and flames burn green and blue and black. I know, oh.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that he doesn't say weird shit, but I feel like it's definitely connecting.
People do think that one's a Blackwater. Then flames burn green and blue and black.
Yeah.
Right. People think that's a Blackwater one.
Could be fair.
Again, that's a short one, and it's kind of easy. He's talking about sea, smoke rises and bubbles and flames. And at the end of that book, we have a battle on the black water with green flames. So, but yeah, those are all the Patchface like singy song weird shit he says though.
Yeah, and then somebody else is just running through bushes and shit. Bam.
What's her name?
Shireen. She's chasing him.
Shireen chases him. Doesn't see Davos. I'm assuming because
doesn't say anything, Joe.
And I don't know. Do they have a relation?
They seem. Yeah, I mean, I would think so.
Have we met them? I don't remember if we've seen the two of them in the book.
Maybe not. Maybe Crescent. That might be Crescent who's chilling with Shireen, right?
I don't.
And
I
think you're right.
Patchface.
Yeah, but that was Crescent. That was a Crescent chapter. For some reason, I was thinking that was a Davos chapter.
I mean, Davos is not. I don't know. Davos is like, he knew Stannis.
Yeah,
like,
he's been around. He says he even
yeah,
like saw
he knows
Robert
Shireen.
Yeah, for sure. They know each other.
We just don't know of their like.
He's been to his house.
Would she like ever like, hey Davos, how you doing?
For sure.
Or,
I feel like she would.
But she didn't.
She didn't. That's why I didn't know if she saw him or not.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, she runs by and then bam, Edric Storm knocks his ass over. He's just running through a bush playing hide and go
Why,
seek.
you shouldn't be in front of me when I'm running, mister.
What's he doing?
How old do you guys think this guy is? I think we know how old he is because we know he was conceived. We know when he was conceived.
He was pretty young.
He was conceived
8.
at Stannis' wedding, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So older than Shireen by a couple years, right? Because they had a couple failed pregnancies.
What I have in my notes is
Say he's 12.
I have 287 is when he's born. It's 299 right now. So 12.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
If that was like Game of Thrones trivia, I'm the only one that gets it right.
He acts a little young to be 12.
I mean, 12's pretty young.
Not in these times. 12 is like, he's like 20.
He's a Rob 12 though. Like he's probably a beast. He's probably a diesel ass 12-year-old.
I was going to say the 12-year-olds we know have gone through some shit, but like, it seems like he hasn't had like, I mean, he's had a pretty easy life, let's be fair.
Well, he almost got killed at Storm's End.
Let's see, like, when was he almost going to get killed at Storm's End?
Well, I mean, I guess since Cersei was looking for him.
Yeah, true. So yeah, he shows up. Later on, Davos says he knows who he is right away because he's got big ears like Florence and everything else. He looks like a Baratheon. But he basically shows up and he's like, what the fuck are you doing in my way, skinny sick boy? That's what Edric says to Davos. Like, don't get in my way when I'm running. Davos is like, yeah, you're right. I'm an idiot. Because Davos actually got knocked over. He's sitting on the ground. Kid's like, who the fuck are you? And he's like, I'm Sir Davos Seaworth. This is also funny. I noticed this twice. Twice in this chapter, when people ask Davos who he is, he says Sir Davos Seaworth. He says it when he gets to the gate. And the guy's like, are you drunk? Go the fuck away.
And then he's like, no, I'm the Onion Knight.
And then they know who he is. So it's kind of funny. Like,
nobody knows his actual name.
We always say that Davos is like an honorable guy and like he deserves to be a knight. And it's only in his head that he thinks like, oh, because he does think like, I'm not worthy, like I'm above my station all the time. But like everyone else thinks so too. No one knows who this guy is.
Nobody knows. Nobody
right.
knows that name. Like, who the fuck is Sir Seaworth?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I thought that was funny that it happened twice in this chapter because here it happens again. He's like the Onion Knight. He's like, oh, I know your story. Like you have the black boat. Yeah, black boat. You brought fish to my boy. It's like, is it true? Or to my uncle, is it true? He cut your fingers off. And he shows him. He's like, my dad never would have done that. And Dad was like, yeah, might be right about that. Robert might not have. And he's like, did you ever know my dad? He seems pretty proud of his dad, right? He's like, they always talk about his dad, but did you know my dad? My dad wouldn't cut your fingers off. He came to train with me, gave me a warhammer.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, it's really strange because like Gendry, the other one, has no idea.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and like this one, I guess at least he's kind of far away, and like he was coming to see his brother still. Like, I mean, he had a cover story kind of.
I guess the difference between this one is Edric Storm's mom is highborn. She's a Florent, right? So what we knew of Edric Storm was Stannis was getting married to a Florent. Stannis was getting married to Selyse. And on Stannis' wedding night, Robert, I think, deflowered
one of
in her bed, right?
One of Selyse's cousins. Yeah, exactly. In the marriage bed. So there was probably like, oh, because like it's a highborn, like the Florents probably weren't happy about that. Like, oh, you dishonored our daughter type thing. Like, I don't know. I think that's what's different. It's because it's a highborn. This is how I see it. Gendry's mom was probably just like some whore, right? Tavern wench.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it.
So as Edric and them are talking, Axel starts walking down.
Bunch of Queens men.
And hey, Axel, how you doing?
Yeah, Davos is thinking they're always chill before. He's been Castellan here for a dozen years. And he comes down, but Davos thinks that does not sound happy now. Uh-oh. And he's like, how are you not drowned? And Davos says, onions float.
It's a great line.
Shit floats, buddy.
Do onions? I mean, I'm assuming onions float.
Yeah, probably. I've come to take you to the king. I have come to take you to the dungeons. Sir Axel mend his way forward. Take his dirk. He means to use it on Our Lady.
Wow.
So, what? My first thought here is, damn,
rat.
Salador is a rat.
No, I never thought that for a second.
I don't know, man. Like, it's two options. Mel's got some crazy magic shit, or Salador just ratted him out, right? Because that's the only person who knew. Maybe he told the captain of it the first ship.
Or there was somebody else on that boat.
Somebody listening.
Yeah. And Salvador even says something like that. So maybe Salvador is a rat. Because he even says, like, you know, she has better ears than you just suspect or something like that. Or her ears are everywhere or something like that.
He says, like, many people are saying what you're saying, but I wouldn't be saying it loudly. And he says shit like that.
I mean, he's kind of trying to warn him a little bit, but then here he goes. I don't know how Salvador Shan could get there that fast.
I'm saying it doesn't make sense with what we know about their relationship, but like, he's the only one that knew about this. So it's either Mel doing magic stuff, which isn't crazy because she does do magic stuff. But yeah, I think that's all we got. Edric Storm, I think, interesting, right? Like, one of those characters that, like, not important, but when we're talking about Stannis taking Storm's End, Edric Storm was important, right? Like, that was like a major piece of what he wanted, and now he's just like here chilling, right? Like you had said, like he was like in danger at Storm's End, but like, was he?
Maybe that's not what I meant. I guess I just knew that he was in danger, and I think I misspoke or said something before I remembered that it was Cersei that was after him.
Gotcha.
And not Stannis was trying to kill him. But yeah, I mean, like, he has him, and the kid's pretty vocal about it too, right? Like, that was kind of the other thing is, like, before we didn't know whether or not, like, it was a Gendry situation, whether this kid would even be on board. But he's like, yeah, I saw him all the time. Yeah, he sent me stuff. He gave me gifts. Like, this kid's
stories.
actually better
receipts.
Evidence than Gendry would be.
Yeah.
And that Warhammer's got to be around somewhere, right? Like, look, I got a Warhammer too.
He says he left at Storm's End. Yeah.
Well, that's a minus.
He said he wanted to take a little and didn't left.
Stupid. Yeah. All right. Kyle, Davos to the dungeons.
Yeah, Davos to the dungeons. I don't know, man. I don't know where to go from here.
Did you see this turn at all?
No, not really. I didn't think it would be this fast, at least, but he's immediately screwed.
Does Stannis? All right, here's a question: does Stannis know that they sent that Axel came down and he's taking Davos to the dungeons?
No, I think this is Selyse.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know though.
That's the question: is if someone found out, does it make it to Stannis? Is what you're asking, or does it stop at Selyse?
As they're arresting him right now, is Stannis in his room brooding over?
Who sent the command?
They're arresting Davos.
Yeah, and I think it's Selyse.
Okay.
Do you want to make a prediction if and when Stannis finds out?
Hopefully soon, right? Because Davos is cool. I'd like to see him out of this cage.
Just rot in a jail cell for the rest of the book.
That can't be interesting either. Like we would have had Jamie chapters earlier if it was. And Ned's weren't too great. I don't know how he gets out of here though, unless Stannis finds out and feels bad for him. But I don't see that happening either. It's kind of what's weird here. I don't know. But maybe he appeals to him that this isn't right and like there's no proof and like
it is better when you don't know. That's a good thing.
Yeah, this one I think I'm completely at a loss. How about I do that? I don't think I've used that, so I can use that every now and then.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll see you in the next one. We'll see the rest of you guys in the spoiler section.
Bye.
Bye, Kyle.
All right, later, nerds.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Bye, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle. See you later. And now, on to the spoiler section of Davos 2. Nelson, I'm going to steal your hot take first. Let's talk about this patch face line.
I could tell you were trying to get Kyle off it before he thought about it too hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough one. I didn't know if you going back into the old ones was a good idea or not.
I don't hate it. I don't think it was bad.
All right. So the one thing was I was
reading through them before I did it to see if there's anything that would jump out. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, Kyle was looking into the patch face quote anyway, right? Like, oh, this is weird. Why would he just say this random?
I wasn't going to go reread them unless he did that. I went back to reread them to kind of like, if anything, maybe throw him off a little bit.
So the first one we could say is probably the Blackwater Bay, right?
Well, let's talk about this one. Fool's blood, king's blood, blood of the maiden's thigh, chains for the guest, chains for the bridegroom, aye.
The Red Wedding.
That's the Red Wedding. We've talked about all the other ones, whenever they came up before.
Yeah, I forget what the second one was, though.
What do you mean? I don't know if they're...
Was that Dany? Was that dragons?
The one with like Nettie moons in their hair. Some people think that mare wives wear Nettie moons in their hair and weave gallons of silver seaweed. I know. I think people think that one is Sansa with... I think because the Nettie moons are like anemones. Yeah, with the hairnet, with like anemones, right, which are like stinging.
Well, yeah, that's the Finding Nemo.
Exactly. So I think that's
Clownfish home.
I think that's what people think that one is. But again, people don't really know. And then the shadows come to dance and stay. Again, I think what we talked about with Kyle was good there. Like we're kind of at the point where some of this stuff, like we can just talk freely about. Like, are there more shadow? There's no more shadow babies that show up.
Well, we're gonna find out that Stannis is like out of power soon, right?
I don't know if there's definitely a part in the show where Melisandre tells him your fires burn low.
That's why I need to leech Gendry.
Exactly. I don't know how we learned that here. We've already seen him looking way drained, right?
You think the Edric Storm gets taken off the island by
Davos? Davos frees Edric Storm. Yeah.
Right. So we can kind of infer that they were going to use Edric to burn his ass, like not
they're going to kill his ass for sure.
Not to prove that he was Rob's kid, which I think is what Kyle's thinking right now. They're burning that motherfucker. They're using his blood.
Well, I think Kyle's confused, and I think we probably could have told him on this one. 100% Davos thinks that they're going to burn Edric. He even says it. There's even a mention of it in this chapter. Do you know what I'm saying? He says, yeah. So he says, my dad wouldn't have cut off your fingers. And Davos says, as you say, my lord. And he thinks that Robert was different than Stannis, but he thinks that Edric is like Robert. He's like, oh, and he's like Renly as well. That thought made Davos anxious. Why would the thought that Edric is like Renly make Davos anxious?
Because that would be a threat to...
No, because Stannis didn't flinch at killing Renly, so he won't flinch to kill... Because in the past, there has been conversations with Davos and Stannis where he's like, why do you care about Storm's End? It doesn't matter. Like, let's just take King's Landing. He's like, no, I need Edric Storm. I need the boy. And I think what we were talking about with Kyle before was like, oh, you need him so that you can prove Joffrey's a bastard. Right. That makes sense. But there's also there was a strong hint in that chapter, which is before they even go to Storm's End. And there's also a very strong hint, I think, in the Courtney Penrose chapter that like he wants to kill him. He's like, Davos was like, let's just leave. Like, we don't need it early. He's like, why do we care about the boy? Right? Because Courtney says like, I'll give you the castle. Just let me take the boy. And Stannis says like, no, I have to have the boy or something like that. And Davos is like, it doesn't matter. There's been hints before that it's unsafe if Edric goes into Stannis' hands. And that's why I kind of pushed Kyle on it. I was like, wait, why was Edric unsafe at Storm's End? Because I wanted to like make him think, oh, he wasn't unsafe because of Cersei. He was unsafe because Stannis. Stannis was the threat. And now Stannis has him. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So I guess the way I read that line was, oh, he's like Robin Renly. People are going to like him. He might be a threat.
Oh, I see. That makes sense too.
As Rob, like if people want to accept him as Robert's son.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Like, oh yeah, he's a potential claimant to the throne.
But it's also weird that he's running around. I thought it was super weird he's running around calling himself, like he's not keeping it close to the chest, which I don't know if he should or not. But
there's not many people in the castle.
Has he been running around his whole life saying I'm the king's bastard?
Probably, right? I mean, if you were a kid, you'd be proud of that, probably. The king's bastard? Fuck it. Who cares if you're a bastard? You're the king's bastard.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was a kid, I'd be proud of that. Yeah, so Patchface, Edric. Anything else about Patchface? I mean, it's... so Fool's Blood, who's the fool? Let's give you some trivia. We don't know him yet. We might have heard of him, but...
is it a Frey?
Yep, Aegon Jingle Bell Frey. One of a true
He dies.
Frey.
He dies simple. In the...
He's a simple-minded Frey, so
and he dies in the Red Wedding.
He's the one in the show. Cat grabs Walder Frey's wife. He's like, let my son go, or I'll kill your wife.
And he's like, fuck it, kill her.
Yeah, and in the book, she grabs Jingle Bell, one of his sons. But he's like simple-minded, and Walter's like,
he's like, he can't even read.
He might say, I have others, or something like that. It's like might be what he says. But yeah, exactly. It's like,
all right, so bang, 1 for 1.
So Fool's Blood, that's Aegon Frey, Jingle Bell. I think it's Aegon Frey. I think it is. Jingle Bell is what they call him.
Okay.
King's Blood.
Rob.
Blood on the Maiden's Thigh.
Is it his new wife?
Exactly.
That's not pregnant, though. I thought she's not pregnant.
You mean Rob's wife? No, Edmure's wife. Because they're consummating their marriage. They
Gotcha. Yeah.
Chains for the guests and chains for the bridegroom. And so then they chain up everybody, including Edmure afterwards.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
Right, because the husband gets chained.
Like, and then what does the wife do? She just goes off and is a Frey again.
Well, they have a kid, right? And Jaime's like, "Hey, I'll throw your kid into River Run with a catapult if you don't do what I say." So,
And then he opens the gates.
I think Rosalind. I think that's the name in both show and books. Rosalind Frey, the one that Edmure marries, like actually likes Edmure.
Yeah, I remember that from reading that.
Like, there's a part where I think in the show, I remember she's crying, and somebody says like, "Oh man, I can't believe like she's crying." And Catelyn's like, "Many brides will cry on their wedding day in this world." But like, there's a hint that she's crying because she knows
what's about to go down.
Yeah, and she doesn't really want to play her
go down. All right, I don't remember it. How does Axel know that he was going to kill Melisandre?
I'm not 100% sure either.
Okay.
It's either Salah or Mel.
Interesting.
Either some magic stuff or Salah knows. No, I'm not 100% sure. I did some looking up beforehand, and I couldn't really find anything on this. Maybe it's something that comes out later in the books, and I'm just being dumb and not remembering. But yeah, right now I can't tell. It makes me think of when Catelyn comes to King's Landing, right? And she comes on the boat, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go sneaky sneak," and all of a sudden, bang, Littlefinger shows up, and we're like, "How'd you know?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, the boat captain I own him," basically. Like, Littlefinger comes to her like that. Axel comes to Davos like that. It makes me think that Salah told. But again, I don't know. Maybe that's just because I don't want to give Mel credit for being magic, even though she's clearly magic.
It's clearly magic. Yeah, dude, I really don't have a whole lot. Like,
two other things I have. There's a part
I took a note of he thought about himself being Patchface.
Yeah.
And we talk about Patchface being a prophet of
the Drowned God.
Yeah.
And then here we talk about the wind blew, right? The whole thing I said about OSHA, where who sends the wind. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just a thought. So
I had two other things. One, Salah suggests, he's like, yes, somebody has to kill Melisandre. Not you. You're not in the good shape. Why don't we go to Bravos? We'll hire a faceless man. They'll get the job done.
Arya's gonna kill her.
I think faceless men have been mentioned before, where I think Tyrion at one point told somebody he always wished to be rich enough to be able to hire a faceless man to kill his sister, which proves how expensive they are. If Tyrion or Lannister isn't rich enough to afford a faceless man to kill his sister, they're got to be expensive as fuck. Just interesting.
So what does Salador's son think that he has enough money to do this thing?
Dude, Salador's son might be richer than Tyrion is. He's like maybe not richer than the Lannisters, but he's got to be one of the richest people on the planet. I'm saying top 100.
I mean, where's he? All this loot. It's all pepper and shit right now. He's got to go sell the. Like, is he taking this fleet of boats to?
If you look at the richest people in the world in America, I bet you know how much. What percentage?
A lot of it's equity and not
so
liquid
little
cash.
of it is liquid. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm sure, but
Salador knows that to make money.
I think Salador also knows that if he's not around these ships, they're likely to get pirated right away from him too.
Yeah. Leader's a big part of it. Last thing, and I think this is kind of interesting. We could probably go way too far with this, but we'll keep it kind of light. Davos is going in onto the castle, and Dragonstone is built into the volcano. Into the side of the volcano. Badass.
Yeah. Yes.
Is there anything about this?
Wait. Yep, I had some House of Dragon things I wanted to mention.
That's where I was going with this. Yeah.
I was trying to think, where the fuck was Driftmark?
Okay, we can go there.
Was the Valerian house. We don't have to do too much on it, but that's the seed of...
Exactly.
And it's also kind of funny that he becomes the Blackwater, Lord of the Blackwater, which kind of sounds like...
Lord of the Tides, yeah.
Lord of the Tides.
Yeah.
And then, is there still a fucking huge dragon in the bottom of Dragonstone?
Well, so the one thing that I'll mention to what you're saying with Driftmark is Davos, at the beginning of the chapter, he says that he can see the end of...
The tip of Driftmark.
And the island of Dragonstone. Maybe not the castle, but the island at the same time. Which means they're close. Yeah. Like, they talk about like, oh, I'll fly to Driftmark and back. Like, you might not be able to see Dragonstone from Driftmark or Driftmark from Dragonstone, but from in the middle you can see both. You know what I mean? Which means they're pretty close.
It's a quick flight. Meleys has taken Aunt Rhaena back and forth pretty quick.
Yeah. If we knew this was Earth, we could just Google how far that is based on like horizon distances. But we don't know the diameter of Westeros Planetos. So that's super nerdy. But that is interesting for House of the Dragon. What I was going for, though, is there's a part where Viserys is in his room with his model, and he's talking to
Allison.
And he says the Dragon Lords built their castle into the side of the volcano because it was where their power was the greatest. And then over here, and this is something that I know because I've heard, like, this is something that the fandom has talked a lot about because it's
They
one of
did
those,
the
like,
same thing with Dragonstone.
well, it's one of those pieces of new lore.
Dragonstone's going to blow up like old Valyria.
We didn't know a lot about old Valyria. We don't really know too much about, like, how that worked at all. We don't know where dragons came from, how any of that worked. But what Viserys says is that here's the volcano, and the Dragon Lords built their castles into the side of it because that's where their power was strongest. The Blood Mages had their castle, their tower over here. Away, it wasn't next to the volcano. It was over here, right? And again, that's just a throwaway line, but the fandom has been like, okay, this is huge. This means that the Blood Mage power is different than the Dragon Lord power, right? Dragon Lords are close to the volcano because that's where their power comes from, but the Blood Mages are not near the tower. They don't, which insinuates that they don't need the volcano for more power. I think this is really interesting because here, like, if you had to say, what is Melisandre, a Blood Mage or a Dragon Lord?
Dragon Lord, she's a fire.
Well, she's near the fire.
She's more, I mean, I guess she does some blood magic too.
I guess you're right. It's technically not blood magic, but I don't know. Like, she does some fire magic. Yeah, I don't insinuate what she's doing with dragons at all, necessarily. But it seems like here she's going into the bowels of Dragonstone.
Is she actually? Like,
yeah, again, we don't know. That's what they say. But when you hear that quote with what Viserys said about in House of the Dragon, it's interesting because he does say, like, oh yeah, they built their castles in the volcanoes because that's where they were most powerful. Yeah. And later, when Melisandre's at the wall with Jon, I think she tells him, like, oh, my power has never been stronger than it is here.
Than the wall?
Than the wall, because she says there's something magical built into the wall that makes my power stronger. So
she's just full of shit.
And she is full of shit. In her chapter, she says, like, a lot of my job, she thinks to herself, like, a lot of my job is using powders and potions to make flames turn colors so people think I have more power than I do. So you're 100% right that she is bullshit.
I remember that. I thought that was a scene in the show too, but I mean, I knew it happened whether it was show or not. She's like, oh, this powder will make a flame shoot 50 feet in the air.
Yeah. And again, we know she has some actual powers, but when we get her chapter,
she's like 800 years old.
She's thinking like a magician, not like a magic. All
right. So is there a dragon at the bottom of Dragonstone that's just trapped? It's been there the whole time?
I think it's just a volcano.
I was just kidding.
A volcano. People think there's a dragon under Winterfell. That's why we got hot springs. What if we just had a few like dragons underground? You know what I mean?
Sweet.
This whole time. There's a huge one under Dragonstone, huge one under Winterfell.
I was just saying because Daemon climbed down to the bowels of Dragonstone and sang to a dragon.
Yeah, I mean,
that looked pretty fucking big. Maybe he was trapped.
That one will come out next season, but he won't be trapped. I know that one doesn't stay trapped down there for sure. But
maybe after the war.
That's all I got.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next one. For Jamie too. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Like, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.